Hello. We're going to do a project called Landscape in Perspective with Pumpkins. The first thing we need to know is how to make a pumpkin. We're also going to use terms like shape, form, line, space. These are all the elements of design. They're not all of them, but there's some of them that we're going to use of design. All right, so when we make a pumpkin, we want to make it look three-dimensional. So we're going to use contour line. And to give you an example of how contour line works, a contour line is when you use lines to create the illusion of form. Form is 3D, shape is 2D. So if I make a circle, that is a 2D shape. It only has height and it has width. Now to make it look 3D, we can't make a form on a paper, but we can create the illusion by using different methods, perspective and contour lines, things like that. So here's a very simple example of how contour lines can create the illusion of a three-dimensional image. These are called cross contour lines. So now we've used contour lines, which these are called cross contour lines, to create the illusion that this has more three-dimensional value. It's not a form in real life, but it does appear to have three-dimensional value to it. So let's apply this to a pumpkin. I would suggest getting a scrap piece of paper to test out how to do a pumpkin, okay? There are different ways of doing it. I find this way the best, where you don't really have to make the contours like this. So what I start out with is this oval, like so, okay? And then I make another half oval, and kind of watch out what I'm doing here. If you look right in this section, you know, a lot of kids would do something like this. We don't want to do that. It just kind of comes off to the side, comes in at an angle, and then wraps around down to here. Again, some kids would do stuff like, you know, kids would do stuff like this. They'll go here, and they'll go here. Okay, so we're looking for this, not this. Try the best you can. So if you do something like this, it's an easy fix by just kind of smoothing these out, you know, up and down here like so. So if I erase this now, and I would have to say that this is probably a little bit too straight, so I guess I'll erase the whole thing. Remember, it's always important to draw with a feather-light touch, so you're barely touching your pencil to your paper. It makes it a lot easier to erase. All right. For the last one, we'll do kind of the same thing, and this will be really skinny, kind of go down to here, and then go down to here. So what we've done is we've created this illusion of form on a flat sheet of paper. Now what I'm going to do is make the stem. So this is how I make the stem. I just kind of make an oval that looks something like that. Then I'm just going to bring this down. It kind of looks like a volcano, like that. Now you can leave it like that, but what I like to do is I like to do these lines here. And these are kind of contour lines too. So that goes to here, that goes to here, that goes to here. Then you erase this. And then for texture, which is actually another element of design, we're going to add some lines to create texture. So not a whole bunch, just a few, just to kind of show that rough texture of a pumpkin. Okay? So that is how you do a pumpkin. So please practice this before you move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next step, which is making a perspective landscape. All right. All right, so perspective is a technique used to create the illusion of a three-dimensional image on a flat sheet of paper. So a simple, went blurry on me, sorry guys. A simple version would be to create a horizon line. So horizon line is this right here. This separates the ground from the sky, okay? So everything above this horizon line is the sky. Everything below it is the ground. As you get closer to the horizon line, things appear to look smaller. They're not really smaller, they're just further away. So you could do this even in the sky too. Sorry about the focus problem. So if I did a cloud way up here, and then I did a cloud here, this is closer to us than this one. Okay? And then so forth. And then there's little ones way far away. So that creates the illusion of depth. So as things get down to here, they get smaller. So if you're paying attention to this, you can really make things look three-dimensional. Another simple way is in using a vanishing point, which we'll get into later. You could do a windy river or a windy road. It gets smaller and it slowly gets bigger. Okay? When you're doing something like this, it must have a vanishing point. Now, we'll get into vanishing points later, but it slowly gets bigger and bigger as you go away. All right, so that's perspective. And we can take the same idea with a tree. So I could do, a big evergreen here. And then I could do another evergreen back here. And then another evergreen back here. You could do it with any tree, doesn't matter what it is. And then, and then way back here, you can barely see them, okay? That creates the illusion of depth using perspective. Filippo Brunelleschi is one of the famous artists who came up with this technique. And we have many techniques. You have a 1-point perspective, which you use one vanishing point, and you have a 2-point. We don't do 2-point till 6th grade, and then we do a 3-point perspective in 7th and 8th, and then from that we'll even get more details on how to do it. We'll focus on some simple 1-points. All right, so the next step is to start our actual project, where we're going to be using some lines and contour lines and things like that to create the illusion that the paper has depth, and then we'll throw some pumpkins in. All right, let's get started on the actual project. Let's start with our horizon line. And what we're going to do is just kind of put a dot here. This is our vanishing point, horizon line. And you can freehand draw. You don't want to use a ruler on this. So this is like a pumpkin patch. And we'll go through like so. Here, 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 here. You want to keep these kind of separated enough. You don't want a whole lot of lines. All right, make sure you're drawing with a featherlight touch so it's easy to erase. You should probably have a good eraser with you, okay? And then we're going to make a really big pumpkin here. So maybe even a jack-o'-lantern. Turn it into a jack-o'-lantern. So super light, I draw that line. Then I'm going to draw this, just like we did before. And then another one here. Another one here. Now I'm going to go inside and just erase those contour lines, because this is overlapping the landscape. When anything overlaps, you can't see what's behind it. This is why it's really important to draw light, and some people can do it easy and some people have a hard time doing it. It takes practice. I'm going to go ahead and put the stem on here. And then I'll do our bottom part of it here. I'll erase this. I'm going to kind of redo this a little bit. A little bigger. Put my texture in, leaving these lines in here. I'm going to go ahead and just make a little happy face. A couple of teeth in here. And then I erase this here. All right, and erase any contour lines. Put a triangle here, and then I'm going to put some eyes like this. Erase this. And that one's a little smaller. I'll make it a little bigger. There we go. And then, okay, so this is going to be the pupil. That's going to be the iris right here. And that can be the back of the eye. So double check, make sure all the lines are out. Looks good. So now we're going to be using perspective. So as you go higher, it's going to get smaller. So I'll do another one here. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes, just like Mr. Dykema does. I've always got my eraser handy. That's why it's so important to draw lightly. All right, that one's kind of pointed here too. So we'll get into this. Put my stem on. All right, I'm not going to put any faces on these. This is like the head honcho here looking over his crew. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put one back here also. I might put another one, line these back here. I'm going to put another one here. Oops, I made my stem first. And if you want to make your stem first, I guess you could, but it's a lot easier to do it after. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of little guys back here, and they're further away. You can also just do a stem like this. And then I'll put one about the same size right here. Oops. And then if you want to put a little tiny one back there, you can. And you can, I guess I could do the stem first, but you might have to sharpen your pencil here because they're going to get so small. All right. And if you can put another one way, way back there, you're more than welcome to do it. It's going to be a little harder to outline a little bit later, but that's okay. So here's a little guy. He's really not little. He's just really far away. Okay. So the next step is we're going to make the moon. So I'm going to just take something to trace like this. You could do this. You could take a tape roll and trace the inside. I'm just going to put part of it right here. Okay. And maybe I'll go a little bigger than that. It's kind of nice to be big and bold. So maybe I'll go on the outside of the tape roll. All right. And then we could put, if you're good at making trees, you could put a little tree here, a little spooky leafless tree. Trees are not easy to do. You really have to practice them. If you had Mrs. Peterson, she made Y trees. And those are good to use too. That's a very good technique that she teaches. All right, spooky little tree there. The next step is to outline with a Sharpie. So we have two different types of Sharpies. We have a fine point and an ultra fine. So we're going to use both of them because some things are really small. All right, so let's move into this. I'm going to outline everything the best I can. And if you don't go right on the lines, that's okay, because we can get rid of those lines when we're done. All right, so that goes to there. And this is just colored in. It's important that you use permanent markers because you're going to paint with these in a minute or in another lesson. Horizon here. Just be careful where you're outlining, because if you didn't erase everything, you might accidentally draw in an area where you don't really want to. I made some changes here, so that's why I didn't do a good job outlining. Back here, be careful, especially with these small ones. You're going to want to use a different Sharpie for that. Okay. So this is the perspective part. The lines go back towards the vanishing point. Now, if you notice, when I'm drawing, I turn my paper a lot. When your hand is rested here, and you just kind of lock in your wrist, if you move your hand, it makes a quarter of a circle. And when you're drawing, you've been growing up writing with your hand in the same direction. So the best thing to do is to keep your hand in the same position that you would write in. So then I turn my paper, I don't have to twist my hand around, and then I just let my wrist do the work. So turning your paper is so important to help make things work a little better. So I'm going to use my fine tip for this one, and then I'm going to move on to my ultra fine for the other ones. And sometimes I might even change this when I'm outlining. I might go, oh, I need to go down a little further here, you know. And this just comes with years of experience, that this is something that I can do. When you're a beginner, it's, you know, you do the best you can, and mistakes happen, and that's just the way it is, and not a big deal. All right, now I'm going to my fine point. So ultra fine. So now you can go in here and outline these guys back here. All right. You could put more pumpkins if you want, but remember, you got to paint these kids, so the more you put on there, the more you're going to be painting, especially these small little ones. And this one's a really tiny one. And a tiny one here. Boy, that's really tiny. That's going to be hard to paint. I'm going to go back here with my, if you did a tree, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to outline this. And then I'm going to color it in. It's going to be kind of a silhouette. You really can't see the details of it. It's just a silhouette of a tree. And you don't have to do the tree either. You know, we're doing a lot already. Like I said, I'm adding a couple things on here. And if I really wanted to get fancy, I could even add a little bit of smaller ones here. Kind of make it a little more detailed. Yeah. Well, you know, you can do, if you have extra time and you're waiting around for people to finish, maybe you could do something like this. And that kind of makes it a little bit more complex and interesting. Alright, so once you're done with this, then you're going to go ahead and take a big eraser. Hold your paper and be careful when you're on the side, only go from here to here. Because if you go back and forth, it's going to grab that paper and crumple it up a little bit. Sometimes it even rips it. So I'll stay on the side, I'll just push off to the side. So I'm lifting it up and pushing it over. And then once I'm on the inside, you can just go back and forth and just go right over the paper because it even gets rid of smudges too. And they're really cool because basically you're kind of making your own coloring page. Okay, going under the tree because I kind of made some different decisions in there and there's a lot of pencil strokes showing. So you want to get rid of all your pencil strokes. Okay, and then I might find some mistakes and I'll show you a mistake that I found when I was outlining. That's easy fix. So maybe just down here, I'm just going to follow these. Okay. So then I'm just going to take a look at my artwork here, and I can see I didn't finish this horizon line here. Maybe I'm going to just add a little bit more. These trees are kind of hard to do, but they're pretty cool if you know how to do them. All right. I don't know, there's something about this I just want to make thicker for some reason. Not all of them, maybe just these two. And remember kids, you guys are third graders, or maybe even fourth grades doing this. It's not going to come easy to you like it comes to Mr. Dykema. So, all right, so the next step to this would be painting it, and I'm going to save that for a different video because there's a lot involved. All right, so hopefully you had some fun with this, and I'll see you next time for the painting portion.